Overhauling Ontario's policing laws. Some brand new legislation is set to take effect. Good evening and thank you for joining us. The province's new Police Services Act will come into effect on April 1st, and local policing officials say they support the changes.
The current Police Act from 1990 is being replaced to address significant changes in public and police safety. Josh Morano has been following the story. And Josh, what does this mean for the police here in Thunder Bay?
I think it's more so targeted at the public itself, as the new bill focuses on addressing community safety as well as modernizing and enhancing policing oversight. It's a big change for police services in Ontario and includes greater transparency around policing for the general public, as well as the disciplining of police officers who break the law.
The Community Safety and Policing Act now features a whopping 263 sections, more than 100 sections longer than the act it replaces. The new rules and regulations within them will be implemented by municipal police forces, including the Thunder Bay Police Service. One of the major changes is allowing police chiefs to suspend off-duty officers without pay in some circumstances. President of the Thunder Bay Police Association, Colin Woods, says while this answers many of the public's concerns, there are still protocols that have to be followed.
Now, this act, it allows when somebody does something, serious misconduct, and it's off-duty offenses, now that allows chiefs to suspend without pay. But there's a threshold that they have to meet and a whole bunch of checks and balances that they have to make sure that they look at and apply before they even get to that level of suspending an officer without pay.
So the officer has to have committed a very, a serious criminal offense, really, in order to have that kind of kick in. So it won't be the lower level discipline processes that we need to go through. It'll be at the higher end where the person is accused or convicted of doing something very, very serious criminal.
On-duty officers who have been criminally charged will still receive their pay until they are convicted under the new act. Wood hopes this is a compromise, but he says many officers are opposed to the changes. Woods also touched on another section of the act regarding the equipment frontline officers should have access to in the case of an active attacker. These include heavier body armor, a battering ram, and a reasonable number of semi-automatic rifles easily accessible in their patrol cars.
This was a point that came forward that services should and have to get this equipment, and it's not just for protection of the officers, protection of the public, and that we can respond appropriately when these incidents happen. We have the tools and the equipment and the training to handle these properly. So it's a good thing, and I think the public will appreciate that we're better equipped now to deal with these situations.
Also included in the act are new provisions for all officers across the province to be trained at the same level, no matter the municipality. Josh Morano, TBT News.
Canada's two federal ministers for Indigenous people were both in Thunder Bay today to announce new childcare funding initiatives. Indigenous Services Minister Patty Hajdu and Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Gary Anandasangari were joined by local MP Marcus Pawlowski, announcing a $1 billion federal loan program for new childcare spaces. The announcement comes ahead of the Trudeau government's 2024 budget. Along with the $1 billion in loans, the Child Care Expansion Loan Program also includes $60 million in non-repayable grants for public and non-profit child care providers nationwide to renovate and expand. There's another $10 million over 2 years to train more early childhood educators, and $48 million over 4 years to forgive student loans for ECEs who stay and work in remote and rural areas.
This particular announcement is about building capacities to ensure that we have more spaces available, particularly in rural and remote communities. It's also about ensuring that we have a workforce that's able to fill these very important roles.
One of the challenges that we see in many different kinds of care is that it's harder for rural and remote people to attract talent and then keep talent. And we believe that by providing this loan forgiveness, it will ensure that students that are considering practicing in a rural remote context will have that extra little push to get them there.
Here at our child care centre in Confederation College, our waitlist is over 1,000 young children at this point in time. We can't meet that demand, so this expansion should help all of our daycare centres in Thunder Bay and across the region to meet the demands for our families.
According to staff with the college's ECE program, the region has seen a surge in demand since the introduction of $10 a day daycare. More than 1,000 kids are on local wait lists, and some kids never get a spot before they reach school age. There were no details regarding how much of this new funding will be rolled out here in northwestern Ontario. We'll have more on that federal childcare funding announcement from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau later in the news hour.
An area mining company has made a major donation to help bring a new long-term care facility to the town of Marathon. Barrick Gold has given $1 million to the North of Superior Healthcare Group's Families Closer to Home campaign. That's propelled the fundraising effort more than halfway to its $2 million goal, with about $1.4 million raised so far. The money is to help support the construction of the $14.2 million Marathon long-term care project. To recognize Barrick's contribution, the facility will now be known as Barrick Care.
It's going to be a physically attached wing to the hospital, similar to what we have in our Terrace Bay Hospital. Small long-term care. It's probably going to be the smallest long-term care home in the province with just 14 beds, but meeting all the modern standards that the Ministry of Long-Term Care requires of us. And so 4 private rooms and then 10 shared accommodation rooms. And what you would expect in a typical long-term care home around recreation areas and dining areas, a spiritual facility, a chapel kind of facility, physiotherapy space.
Construction is now underway, and the facility is expected to open in spring or summer of 2025. Additional sponsorship opportunities are still available to help raise the necessary funds.
The third annual Opportunities Northwest Job Fair drew large crowds of job seekers to the Valhalla Hotel today.
The event, hosted by Dougal Media, features more than 90 employers, and this was the largest job fair to date. Nev Van Pelt was there.
The minute the doors opened to the annual Opportunities Northwest Job Fair, it was packed. Hundreds of individuals from around the region made their way to the event to seek out potential employment opportunities. There were booths featuring a little bit of everything at the event, from construction to healthcare to mining to education to both full and part-time jobs. People had the chance to see it all.
This is one-stop shopping, if you will, for that analogy, but it is a great opportunity, especially for people coming in from around the region to be able to come in and to tackle all these businesses, or as many as you want to in one day. This is just a great opportunity for that.
The event not only helps job seekers find new opportunities, but also allows companies to make connections with potential employees. Sometimes applying for jobs isn't as easy as submitting a resume online, so this allows companies to explain the process as well as answer other questions people might have.
A lot of people might be unsure on how to apply or what's the best way to apply. So I think it's important to, talk to people face to face and give them the instructions on what to do. And, some people wouldn't be aware of our company if we weren't here. Not everyone's aware of the companies that are a little bit further away from Thunder Bay. So it's nice to get the other communities involved.
With so many different vendors, there was an opportunity for people with all kinds of backgrounds and skill levels to find something that suited them.
So far, so good. I just graduated and started to interact with people looking for a job. I personally look for seeking for a job, so I'm just getting into it.
Hundreds of people came out here to visit the Opportunities Northwest Job Fair, and many were very happy to have the chance to make some face-to-face connections with potential employers while they were here. Nev Van Pelt, TBT News.
A backlog of cases in Ontario courts means some victims of heinous crimes aren't getting a chance for justice.
The accused in some cases aren't being tried before the time limit set by the Charter runs out. That sparked calls for the province to address delays and staffing shortages. CTV's Siobhan Morris has the story.
I am a survivor of domestic violence and a victim of the Canadian justice system.
Kate Alexander's ex allegedly tried to kill her, but she never got a chance at justice. The case thrown out because it couldn't be heard within a time limit set by the Charter.
I was told my attempted murder is not a priority. And despite having a new billion-dollar courthouse, the government has not allocated the funds to staff it properly.
A new courthouse in downtown Toronto, where the trial of the man who Emily Ager says sexually assaulted her was scheduled last July. After 2 days, unable to go ahead because there wasn't a staffed courtroom.
I testified and was cross-examined, and then the judge said that he wanted to hear the rest of the trial out, but the next available dates were in November.
Beyond the deadline for the case to be heard, the charges against Ager's alleged attacker stayed.
Enough is enough. stop the excuses and make real change.
The opposition is urging the Attorney General to put his money where his mouth is.
Tough on crime rhetoric from the government means absolutely nothing if the courts are understaffed and cases are tossed out.
Doug Downey insists the government has invested more, hired more.
Be it Crown prosecutors, victim witness assistants, court employees, court staff, bail vetters. Mr. Speaker, it is incredible the amount of resources this government is putting into the system.
But Agar and Alexander know their stories are not unique.
There are other victims of this broken legal system who, like us, will live with this pain forever.
That was CTV's Siobhan Morris reporting. Lakehead University's Northern Studies Resource Center has a new name.
LU library staff wanted to rename the center to reflect its expanded Indigenous mandate and the university's commitment to decolonization. Lee Noonan has more.
Lakehead University's Northern Studies Resource Center will now be known as Nandagikin Dangamik, translated as Seek to Know or Seek to Learn place.
We get a lot of students in here, particularly students that are studying Indigenous learning, our political science about Indigenous law, our Indigenous people, anthropology even. So anything really to do with Indigenous people from the beginning of time until today. This is the space in the university where you'll find a lot of the resources.
The space was gifted its new Anishinaabe name by the university's Elders Council, and a naming ceremony was held at the library, led by LU Elder-in-Residence Beatrice Twans-Hines. She says the university has come a long way in the support it provides First Nations students.
I came to Lakehead back in the 70s. Gut, they say, long time ago. And at that time, oh my God, when I was waiting at the train station for my ride, and I just wanted to go back home. I was so afraid, and everything was just so, I guess, alien.
First established in 1988 to support northern and regional research, the Resource Center's mandate was expanded over the years and now includes a vast collection of books, journals, and artifacts focused exclusively on Indigenous peoples, histories, and cultures. Fort William First Nation Chief Michelle Solomon says the renaming is a small but important step towards reconciliation.
Naming a place such as this that holds so much historical information about Indigenous people, it's appropriate that it have an Indigenous name and that it be a space of cultural safety.
The space is open 7 days a week to not only Lakehead students, but the general public. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Senior elementary students from the local Catholic schools put on their STEM hats today for a pair of competitions. More than 50 students were split into 12 teams with the opportunity to compete in one of two challenges related to skilled trades. The first event was the Green Energy Challenge, which had students design, plan, and create a wind turbine. Their unit would then have to endure the test of strength and efficiency. The second competition was the Lego Robotics Challenge, where students had to plan, code, and test their EV3 bricks to complete a series of instructions. Everyone involved said they were thrilled the grade 7 and 8s were able to have this opportunity for the first time.
We know, green energy is a big thing now, the design, the construction, the engineering, hence the STEM aspect of it, coding, robotics, which is now integrated throughout our curriculum in the mathematics area, is a huge step, and just being able to give our kids a snippet of what they're going to see as they go through high school, potentially onto college and university. These are future jobs.
This type of challenge, both the robotics and the green energy, is giving our kids a chance to look at what their futures could look like in a STEM job.
My favorite part about the competition is probably like adding your own modifications to the robot, and it's just pretty cool because everybody has their own thing.
Following the competition, teams were awarded with medals for their hard work. The winning team from each challenge now gets to move on to represent Thunder Bay Catholic at the Skills Ontario Provincial Elementary Competition in Toronto. Oh, that is neat. Coding?
You're looking at a bunch of kids who are far smarter than I am, I believe.
Here.
I can read words off a teleprompter, but I can't do any of what they were just